I developed a stammer, an asthma, when I was 9 years old. And by the time I was 10, I could barely string a sentence together. I was tied up in knots inside, and I used a lot of energy to hide that. Over the years, I have developed the capacity to be able to communicate with groups of people in meaningful and stirring ways. So I stand here now with both. My love of using words to communicate, and the horror of stammering. It's a vulnerable choice. It occurred to me as I prepared for this talk that maybe my stammer had informed my fascination and intrigue with the physical body and what it says and doesn't say. I'd like you to consider with me the value and importance of moving towards and underneath the emotional nuances and the subtle messages of what is attempting to be communicated through our bodies. To me, there is an immense, untapped and unvalued wisdom right here, in our fingertips, in our elbows, in our ribs, in our knees, wherever. That knowledge is a pathway to health because there is a vast, rich world occurring right here, inside of me and inside of each of you. I am interested, very interested, in fact, in the relationship between this internal landscape and the health of our planet. This internal landscape and the external state of the world, and how embodied movement, that is movement with mindfulness and with presence and with conscious emotional intelligence, can support not just an increased personal sense of well-being, but also a radiant planet. One of the huge benefits that I received from my speech therapy was an induction into the usefulness and importance of conscious breathing. So why don't we take a moment just now to pause, shift in your seats a little bit, make some space for what the breath loves to do, which is to leave and enter, and leave and enter. While you're listening to me, you probably have your own thoughts and feelings going on about what I'm saying, particularly if you have a speech impediment or if you know somebody who does. Pausing gives us a moment to connect and to digest. My stammer no longer haunts me. It is still one of my great teachers. I now know that when my stammer shows up, it is a physical manifestation of something occurring underneath, an indication that there is some emotional anxiety that is most likely outside of my comfort zone. And I imagine that many of you will have a similar experience to that. It might manifest in a different way. Sometimes it's not easy figuring out what's going on. Knowing what's going on is risky business. It might require that I make some changes in my personal life, in my lifestyle, in my working situation. Staying numb or keeping myself none the wiser sometimes seems like the smartest way to go. I know that when I'm having trouble speaking, literally or in whatever way my equilibrium might be disturbed, that the most efficient and effective way for me to find out what's going on is to actually let go of words. When I allow my attention to open, to what wants to be articulated without speech, rather with gesture, with permission to expand that gesture into the physical space around me, I know that I'm at my most honest, my most congruent, my most authentic. When instead of trying hard not to stammer, which takes so much effort, I engage with it, something that I've tried to suppress becomes almost enjoyable. So much more than just my stammer is actually liberated. You might wonder, why do I care so much about this? The percentage of non-diagnosable and untreatable illnesses is on the rise. The crisis of physical health is accompanied by a surge in mental health issues, especially amongst young people. In 2009, there was a report in the British Medical Journal of a 55% possibility of significant psychological distress by the age of 15 for young people in Scotland. And that was 8 years ago. In a Guardian article this year, quoting data from the Higher Education Statistics Agency, it was revealed that between 2009-10 and 2014-15, the number of students who left university early due to experiencing mental health problems increased by 210%. As a mother of a 25-year-old and a 19-year-old, I can assure you, I care. And while our physical, mental, and emotional health is suffering, our planet is suffering too. And I believe these two things are linked. There's an endless list of environmental catastrophes in the news almost every day at the moment. I'm not here to speak about climate change from a scientific point of view. That's not my skill set. I do believe it's happening. So what is the link? Well, we live in a society that is left brain dominant, where rational thought is valued over intuition. Daily life, especially in cities, but with the World Wide Web, actually anywhere, consists of a bombardment of sensory stimulation. From morning to night, there is ample opportunity and even encouragement to escape, rather than pay attention to what is occurring on our doorsteps. Embodied movement accesses an intelligence that emerges from the right brain, and in so doing contradicts the norm that has been allocated to us by a left brain orientated way of thinking and valuing, especially true of Western civilization. And I'm going to repeat that. Embodied movement accesses an intelligence that emerges from the right brain, and in so doing contradicts the norm that has been allocated to us by a left brain orientated way of thinking and valuing, especially true in Western civilization. Our bodies are an untapped and unutilized resource, like a treasure chest of information. Admittedly, sometimes it might feel like opening Pandora's box. When you go to the doctors, you're asked about your symptoms. Most commonly, the prescription that is given is to remove the symptom rather than address the cause. In my worldview, the physical body is only one dimension that I take into account. I operate from the premise that everything is connected. Assuming that we are multifaceted beings, then the vast array of influences on our health are being massively underestimated. If we can expand our consciousness to include rather than exclude, then the possibilities for health and healing expand exponentially. We live in a world that is saturated with words. Time and again across the planet, I have people say to me how grateful they are on dance floors to have the opportunity to connect with themselves and with each other without words. It seems like it's a risk worth taking. Pausing in the midst of the mayhem of daily life, opening attention to the subtle worlds within becomes a creative gateway for visible expression which contradicts cultural oppression. Bet you never thought of movement like that. So I'm inviting you to join me now in this contradiction of cultural oppression. So if you would take a moment, if you're holding on to anything, put it down, and just let your eyes turn towards your hands. Wherever you're sitting, and if you're watching this at home as well somewhere, then just look at your hands. Your attention might go to the skin, to the bones, to the muscle, to your nails, to your knuckles. You might become aware of the sensation, the texture. Are they dry? Are they sweaty, like mine? What do you notice when you give your attention to your hands? Do they scrunch up? Do they want to stretch out? Like if you were to let your hands do whatever they want to do right now, what would they do? Anything that they wanted to do right now that is pleasurable within this remit. So, as you give your attention to your hands, just speed it up a little bit. Just make it a little bit faster. Add a little bit more breath. Oh, that feels so good even from over here. And then slow it down a little bit. And now, if you will, just turn to somebody next to you. They might be behind you. It's okay if it's 2 or 3 people. And just take a moment to show each other your hands. And have a little conversation without words. Without words. It's hard to let go of the words, I notice, says the dance teacher in me. What do your hands want to say? How do they want to touch? What do they have to communicate without words? And then return your attention back to your own hands, thanking whoever that you were just playing with. And then can you return your attention back to me, please? And I'm wondering if you can feel a shift in the room. There's a bit more joyfulness, a bit more ease, it seems to me. Utilizing the power of our bodies as an instrument for expression can result in us feeling more empowered. It becomes more obvious what choices support health, and invariably a healthier me equates with a healthier us, and a healthier us is a healthier earth. When I honor the wisdom of my body, an inherently feminine choice as far as I'm concerned, regardless of gender, I'm choosing to respect my internal value system, distinct from my inherited value systems or those that have been pushed upon me, for example, by the media. As a woman, each time I choose to listen to my body and say yes to the freely available internal wisdom and innate knowledge of how to stay well, I'm taking a stand, not just for my well-being, not just for my physical, mental, and emotional health, but for the planet as well. To me, there is no separation. We can choose to identify. I know what it's like to feel parched. I'm sure you know what it's like to feel ripped apart, to be flooded with thoughts, with feelings, with sensations. When I consider my body's needs, when we consider our body's needs, we are implicitly attuned to the earth. When I take the time to connect, engage, and express, I risk caring. And in caring, I liberate myself from the self-imposed niceties that I swallowed as a child, or the societal pressures that I've grown up with. We have agency over our bodies. However shy, however awkward, however bold or juiced up, this is free speech. Thank you.